Hi, I'm Sara Khan. I live and work in Vancouver. I'm a painter. I've mostly been focused on watercolor and water-based mediums on paper, but I'm starting to play around with other mediums. I live here with my husband and my 2 kids.
And I'm Sandeep Johal, and I'm a visual artist, muralist living and working in Vancouver.
It was the first 2 years I'd been here, and I was looking for an art community here when I joined Thrive Art, that mastermind. And then we finally met in person when they had a get-together for everybody. Usually the meetings were separate, but then when they had the whole lot together, that's when I met Sandeep. And you called me mind forking then.
Yeah.
Because we were only talking to each other on Instagram, I guess.
Yeah.
And as soon as I met her, I felt like I'd known her forever. She didn't feel like a stranger at all.
Yeah.
I felt like you were from my family. You reminded me of some of my cousins.
Yeah, it's very familial for sure.
Yeah, immediately connected as people first.
Yeah.
We loved each other's work, but I think we didn't realize how much our work could complement each other.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I don't think I realized that first. It was actually once we connected in person and saw how we worked, it sort of felt like this could be very interesting working together.
Yeah, and I think I love the way our work has informed each other's pieces, and I love the idea of taking Sara's characters and then reinterpreting them in my own style, which has been a really interesting challenge for me. I really love the silhouettes of Sara's. I love all of your silhouettes, and I just love how kind of fluid they are, and there's just so many weird creepy hands and heads and things coming out of mouths, and I don't know, you're just really good at creating these interesting silhouettes, and I think sometimes you can get stuck at well, where do I start with this image? I sometimes am where do I start? But when I see your silhouettes, instantly I feel really inspired to put things inside of them.
Yeah, I love doing I generally love working with silhouettes. I think that's why, both of us, that's why we work with collage as well. I feel like collage just gives you a really good starting point, and silhouettes and stuff come out of those very easily. That sort of definitely changed my perspective on things. How if your starting point is coming from somebody else, then where is your visual going to go? Or then where is your even story going to go? I find that quite fascinating, actually.
Yeah, and it just breaks open another layer of something that you've had inside that just needed a little push to come out. And I feel like Sara's work definitely makes me push my work a little bit further. I think murals are such a huge part of my practice, and then Sara's done a few murals, and to merge our 2 styles in that way, because that will be a true collaboration where we'll be painting on site together and making those decisions in the moment, in real time. And so I'm looking forward to combining Sara's more painterly style with my more graphic elements.
And we'll get to see how quick we are then. We think we're very quick. Let's see how we are then.
Yeah.
But it was also very interesting how we did, Sandeep did the flags, I did the ceramics, and then we did these panels that there was a lot of, back and forth with those, the silhouettes and all of that. And then the mural we actually do hands in, both of us together, so it should be really fun that way.
First and foremost, a mural just completely changes a space. And that's what I love about painting murals, is that you see this immediate impact, immediate visual impact outside, accessible to anybody from any background. It's very intimidating for people to walk into a white cube gallery space, because already being in that space, people feel like they're not smart enough to understand the work. But really, it's whatever you feel connected to in the work, that's what's most important. And so I feel like murals kind of democratize things, and I think the mural will just kind of tie all of the work together. And add another really exciting visual element to the show, because I'm sure people aren't expecting to walk into a space and then see this mural that's taking up the whole gallery.
It's also really what's really fun about this show is that a lot of everything depends on install, you know. We're both doing like these bits and bobs, you know. Catherine doing her thing, and Sandeep and I doing our little bits and bobs at home. So when it comes together, it should be so interesting to actually, you know, be a part of the curation and seeing how it visually looks in the end. Because everything at the moment is sort of like presumed, and, you know,
we have an idea.
We have an idea.
Yeah.
We're in it because it brings us joy.
I think as artists, we're called to it, right? Like we can't get away from it. Yeah. I could no longer deny wanting to make this my life, and I had to change my life in order to do this at a later stage in my life after having had a child. And I just think when it's in there, we don't have a choice but to express it.
Yeah.
And the way we express it and the way we choose to run our practice or our business is very different from each other, and it varies. But ultimately, I think the world is better for it, you know, having all of these different forms of expression around. You know, it's necessary.
Yeah, all these visuals and all these stories and narratives, and every single person has their own story to tell, which is incredible.
Yeah, in their own unique way.
Yeah. Both textiles, I mean, ceramics completely new for us, but even textiles using fabric, it's a fairly new thing that we've, I mean, I think both of us started around the same time, very different things. And for this show, for some reason, we decided we wanted to focus on it because mostly we both paint. Sandeep does a lot of murals, and I do a lot of paint on paper. So going from that to specifically textile and ceramics was a lot of fun. It was just something very new.
And I think too, you have to kind of like figure out what you like and don't like. Like I really wanted to like see if I would like ceramics, and I just could not get my head into making ceramics for this show. I think maybe later I'll be able to put a bit, or maybe later down the road I'll be more interested, but I just wasn't in the headspace to experiment with ceramics. But Sara just went running with the ceramics, and it was really cool to see her take these sort of 2D drawings of hers and then create them in this sort of 3D way.
You know what? I was thinking about it. The way you do textiles, we were talking about it being therapeutic. You know, the stitching being therapeutic, sewing being therapeutic. I enjoy it, but after a while I get restless. It's too slow for me.
Right.
And I enjoy slow, but that gets a little too slow for me. And I like things to sort of there to be like a little bit of an adventure after a while, and I think the ceramics gave me that, because I'd been painting last year, the whole year I'd been painting for the show that I had last year, and then I'd been doing the textiles, which make things slow, and then suddenly I was just like, you know, dying to get into something that would sort of make me uncomfortable, and that's why ceramics, the clay, I sort of just got into and wanted to continue. We decided, okay, what have we both done that we could sort of come together to do, which would be large scale? There was textiles and fabric, and then there is the mural. And I think that's why we went with those mediums instead of, you know, a large watercolor.
And like
or
fabrics,
large acrylic painting.
like textiles have been used by women for hundreds and hundreds of
that
years.
Was also,
you know what I mean? In the home, there's just so much labor involved in women's work.
Yes. We did want to use a lot of that as well. The stuff that, or even like even when we were thinking about ceramics, we were thinking about pottery and vessels and all of this stuff that sort of points towards, you know, women's labor and
women's bodies as vessels.
We were thinking about all these little things that sort of came together, and then the mediums sort of, we decided on those mediums. And Renegade Mothers, we're both mums, and we know how much goes into motherhood every single day, every minute. Initially started, we were going to do textile pieces because mostly we paint, but both of us had done some textile work, so we decided that we were going to use start with that,
yeah.
and then see how we feel about ceramics. And the textiles, we decided we're going to do these large panels that were almost like these flags in like some kind of a palace or something, which sort of depict important figures. Remember? I think that's how it started. So. And we decided if we're going to do these figures, because we're trying to create this army of weirdos or these, you know, sort of give importance to people who actually sort of maybe even run the world but don't get any importance given to them. So we decided we wanted these strange creatures that we always draw or paint in our own work. We'll use those as the base, and then we'll create them in these large flag-like large textile pieces, right? It was supposed to be something like that. These large panels that we're going to create. Yeah. And then so we decided that each of us will do one figure which was taken from our own work, and one figure that was taken from the other person's work.
Just even having like these figures take up space. You know, in public space.
Yes.
You know, and having these sort of
uterus women.
These sort of hybrid anthropomorphic figures taking up space in these public areas. You know, that's what I strive to do with my murals, is having these larger than life women just on a wall in public, so that it encourages other women to take up space and not feel ashamed to take up space, right? Because we deserve it, and we deserve to be here.
And we start from the beginning with art, you know, with the coming generations and the, you know, the coming girls and boys. And if you start there, then there will be a difference in the way they see things and the way they treat each other. So I think that's really important to have these kind of visuals around them, you know. Public galleries especially have these kind of beings sort of surrounding them, and these kind of titles and these kind of words associated with them.
I think like every solo show I've had has been about a really deep and intense topic, and I just didn't want to do that because I was already feeling like everything was so deep and intense over the past 3 years, and I just wanted to do something that was fun and something that was more lighthearted and didn't have to have this really heavy narrative attached to it.
Not dark, at least. It was meant to be full of hope. So the rising, you know, every little while we go through something that's very, very challenging, sometimes very frightening even, or debilitating, and then how you come through that and then rise up, you know, how you come through a dark period into, you know, the light at the end of the tunnel, and you sort of rise through that and and then feel like you're sort of more you somehow, or you've shed an old skin. So I think the rise was meant to be a positive thought that way.
And like how much you learn about yourself through periods of challenge and through obstacles, and you know, you're shedding all of that weight,
and
rising angst, you know, and then you're rising up to this new level of yourself, and then, you know, when you meet another obstacle, it's that same cycle or process just over and over and over again. And as humans, like, we have to evolve. We have to learn and grow with every challenge. Otherwise, what's the point?
Exactly.